The Oscars are an award show addressing every facet of the film industry. In this podcast, we will cover some of our top picks for Best Picture, the most prestigious award of the show, and what they mean for the future of the industry. Hi, welcome to SCHS's podcast, The Roar. My name is Mollinier, and I'm a sophomore.
My name is Audri, Berdeen. I'm a junior.
My name is Frey, Ryan-Jensen. I'm a sophomore.
My name is Aguirre, and I'm a junior.
This year, the nominees are The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Begonia, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, F1, Sinners, Train Dreams, Frankenstein, and One Battle After Another. Our first pick is Marty Supreme, a movie about Marty Mauser, who actually is a real person, but very loosely based off his life. But he's a dream of becoming a big-time table tennis player, and he goes through many trials and tribulations in pursuit of greatness. And that's actually adapted from Letterboxd. I'm going to start with a little fun fact, but Marty Supreme actually made the most money out of any A24 movie, $147 million to be exact.
I feel like it definitely was like a good quality of movie to make that $147 million. And for an A24 movie, which is like a corporation that doesn't like, they're pretty like, not, I wouldn't say niche because they're growing constantly, like especially to this day, but for like one that isn't like at the top, say like Warner Brothers and stuff like that, for a movie to come out this well made, and like, I mean, all their movies are well made, I'll just say that, but this one was like, I don't know, it was really good, and for it to be getting an Oscar nominee, I think was a really good accomplishment for the studio.
Yeah, I know like A24 is known for being more indie, so I think it is definitely a little, I mean, obviously people don't like when smaller things go more mainstream, but I think Marty Supreme was a really important movie for them, and I think it introduced a lot of people to A24. Let's go into the movie itself. I mean, honestly, like, if you're gonna watch it, definitely not what you're expecting. Like, I feel like that's easy to say that without spoiling too much. About table tennis for like 20 minutes. That's what I'm gonna say.
I know, it took like a big turn. I went into it thinking it was gonna be like another like sports movie, like maybe like the F1 movie or something like that, where it's solely gonna be on the player and their sport. But this took a completely different turn. Like, there were so many different plot points that all actually meshed into each other in the end. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I think that's what makes it so great, is it's like, it's about table tennis, but it's also about like so much, like it's about so much more, like, and actually, I think, like, okay, a little spoiler here, but what I actually thought was really fun is that the movie starts, like, a scene where, like, basically, like, the main character, Marty, gets someone pregnant, and the movie actually ends with that pregnancy being his son. So I think that actually is a fun way to put the timeline of the movie like that.
It was like a good loop around that actually, like, it gave the movie structure because it started with it and then it ended with it, so it was like a full...
Yeah, it really comes full circle, yeah.
I also think that the cinematography and just the way the movie was filmed was really good. The colors were great. Like, it didn't have like that like Netflix lighting that a lot of people are talking about with now modern movies and stuff like that. I didn't feel like that at all. I think all the colors were really great. Some were bright when they needed to be, some were very dull when they needed to be, and it was really good. The pacing of the movie, I thought it was really fast, but I feel like for this movie it worked. I feel like having stuff slow down at necessary times was good, but I feel like it was good to keep like this fast pace going, especially for how this movie is playing out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I think at first, like, it kind of overwhelmed me when I was watching it, but I think it did end up really working for the movie. I think it just kind of wanted to show, like, I think that's what made it so funny. Like, this guy's life, like, so much is happening, like, it's too much, and I think that's really what gives the movie its charm.
Okay, I want to move on to the cast because I'm just going to say it. I do think Timothée Chalamet is a little overrated. I get it, he's a very good actor, and he's been in a lot of really good movies, like Dune. I really liked those, like, that set of movies. But I don't know, I always feel like he's been in way too much stuff. But I do think he was actually, like, really good casting for this movie in particular, because I feel like he really embodied the character a lot, and all of the characters did. But I think Timothée Chalamet did do a really good job for this movie and this character. And there was also the little Tyler, the Creator cameo, and that was really fun too, seeing him.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually, like, also what made me want to watch the movie, because Tyler was going to be in it. And back on Timothy, like, I don't know, like, I think the character, the person the character is based on had, like, acne in real life. And then Timothée Chalamet had like acne. Like, I don't know, like that was a detail I noticed. Like they were getting really close to his face, and that was a really like detail that stood out to me. And I was like, is it real or is it fake? Yeah.
Yeah, well, overall, I think Martyrs Supreme was a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Like rating, I would say what?
Rating out of what, 5, 10?
Out of 10, I would say like between a 7 and an 8. Like
I would say a solid 8.
Yeah.
Solid 8. It was a pretty good movie, great casting, great cinematography, great story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second film that we're going to be looking at is Train Dreams. This film is about a logger named Robert Grenier who lives all of his years in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, working on the land, helping to create a new world at the turn of the 20th century. And that's adapted from IMDb.
Just to start with this movie, I feel like to start with the opening scene, because I feel like the opening scene, like when I first saw it, I was like, this is so insanely good. Like I loved the opening, and like I love how okay, this is gonna be a very spoiler review. I feel like he keeps going back to that opening scene and like adding on to it as his life goes on, and I feel like it just like is such a cool way to open it. And like I think they revisit it so many times that it just like reinforces this like really cool like cinematography and really cool like editing and like color choices and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the aesthetics of the film. I think the film was definitely focused on aesthetics, which I did enjoy as someone who does generally enjoy like watching movies for their aesthetic. But I also really enjoy plots of movies, and I feel like this movie kind of lacked a depth of plot away from, spoiler review, oh my gosh, from the death of his wife and his child. So I don't know, I just feel like it could have had more substance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as a movie, it's a lot more, it's not really like focused on a plot. It's like one of those like character driven ones where you're looking like at a really in-depth study of like this guy's life, and like it's so much about him that I think like there isn't necessarily an overarching villain in this, except for like the need to like take care of your family and like those kinds of battles. Like I don't think there is, you know, it's not like, oh, the big evil corporation is coming for him or something. Like it's very much just this guy's life and like looking at a realistic life and like seeing him go through like those states of depression and like finding his life again and finding his meaning and like the purpose that he finds like after this major event for him. And I think that's like, I think in some ways that's really powerful, because I feel like you don't see that a lot in movies. I feel like a lot of movies are like, this is the big antagonist, our character has to deal with him and that's all we're gonna do. And I feel like it's nice to be able to see like that kind of real, real indie, like real unique, not necessarily mainstream view of storytelling and of movie making.
Yeah, and then on the topic of characters, I just kind of feel like the characters didn't really fit together or like fit the time period. I feel like a lot of them were out of place. Maybe it was the casting, but I don't know. I don't think it was the casting, but like maybe that was it. But I just feel like a lot of the characters, their depth was a little bit more modern. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like it matched the vibe of the movie.
No, yeah, I get that. Like, I think even like despite like enjoying a lot of the movie, I think I could immediately like just like get like an ick about it, because I could feel like the modern, like when people say like, oh, this character has seen a smartphone, like that's kind of what it felt like. Like I know that these characters are very modern, and I could tell like it wasn't as immersive in the sense of like this is a person from, you know, the industrial era, like this is a person from like the South or whatever. It wasn't really like that kind of feel to it, which is, I think, one of the major flaws of it is like the writing is just, it's beautiful, but it's very modern in like the storytelling. Like this could have taken place in the current era, except for the fact that like he lives in the middle of nowhere. Like I think it could be very much a modern movie to set in like right now.
Yeah, I think that is important to emphasize. Like the movie in the description is talking about, it puts a lot of emphasis on the time period and his circumstance, and I think that it wasn't really important to what the real plot was that, which was grief, for the most part. I mean, there were small things, but then I also think with that in mind, and I thought that the modernization of it was very interesting, considering it seemed to be a movie that focused a lot on an indie film audience, and it wasn't really a movie with a widespread audience that was, you know, interesting for the majority of people. Like I watched this with my mom, and from like her point of view, because she doesn't really like go really in depth on movies, she thought it was boring. And I mean, I think that was the general opinion of a lot of people, except for those like cinebro kind of people.
So
yeah.
Like Personally, I really like this movie, but I don't think it's gonna win. Like, genuinely, I like it a lot, but I think it's honestly the closest to an indie movie we have, because A24 has kind of mostly become a corporate movie house. Like, they're so big at this point that they kind of lost some of the indie feel to it. Like, I think their movies have a little bit of an indie feel, but they don't have, like, they're not the same as, like, this kind of thing, where this was kind of experimental. It seems like this movie wasn't meant to be an Oscar winner. It seems like this movie wasn't meant to be on the Oscar stage. It seems like it was meant for a specific audience that enjoys this kind of movie. So I don't see it winning. I think, honestly, Hamnet or Marty Supreme or maybe Frankenstein might be the winners, but I do just really like this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this was its place in the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not exactly what I'd like to see for the future of cinema more in the mainstream sense. But I do think it was a really good indie movie example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, next up, we're going to be discussing Hamnet. This film is about William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes celebrating the birth of their son Hamnet. But tragedy strikes and Hamnet dies at a young age. This actually inspires Shakespeare to write his timeless masterpiece, Hamlet. And this is adapted from IMDb.
Okay, I just want to start this by saying this movie was my favorite. I think, like Train Dreams, it was very beautiful to look at and just a gorgeous movie overall.
I thought it was too. I mean, I wasn't able to finish it because I didn't have enough time, but my first impressions of the movie were automatically just, this is beautiful. The cinematography, even like the actors themselves were beautiful. The colors, everything was like amazing about this movie.
Yeah, I think, and then aside from Train Dreams, I thought that Train Dreams didn't have a lot of substance, so I think this one was a really good change to, like, it had a lot more substance in my opinion. And it kind of just felt like one of those movies that feel like the best thing you've ever watched while you're watching it, but then, like, in real life maybe you're like, oh, that wouldn't make it into my top movies, but like when you're watching it you're just thinking, this is so amazing. I feel like this is the best thing I've ever watched.
I remember reading the reviews on Letterboxd online and all of that, and I remember seeing just like the 4 stars, the 5 stars across the board. I'm like, wow, I have to watch this movie. Then I remember sitting down, and I remember just like, even with like the limited like time that I watched it for, I remember just being like, wow, like, not only just like beautiful, but you could like feel like almost like how the characters were acting, how the characters were like interacting with each other. Like, they were really making this movie feel like it was just like a painting on television.
Yeah, and I think a common theme throughout all of these Oscar-nominated movies, not just the ones we're covering today, is just like deep emotions. And this one being primarily grief and also just love in general, you know, whether that's romantic or familial. I just think that's really important to recognize. And I personally love this, like, emphasis on deep emotions. But I also know a lot of people think it's too heavy. So what do you think of that? I think it all really depends on the audience and the people that are watching it, because people are definitely going to have preferences. A lot of people are going to want to choose more comedic movies that want to win Oscar nominees, but then a lot of people are going to be like, well, we should get more into the deeper emotion like that. But I feel like if the deep emotion is conveyed well enough and like good enough, I feel like it should be recognized by all people that this movie was able to convey it well and why they deserve to win because of it. So I feel like even if you prefer like different styles of emotion told through movies, you should still be able to see this movie and how well it conveyed that emotion. Yeah, and then on the topic of casting, Jessie Buckley was amazing in this film. I just was like, I don't think I know her from anything. I don't think I've seen anything else that she's in, but I think my mom did, and she was like, wow, this is so different from what she normally does. And I just remember being amazed, because it's just this woman that I've never seen in my life, to be honest. And then I'm just in awe because she's so talented and so, I don't know, it just felt so real. And I think on the topic of Paul Mescal, who I have seen in other things, this was also just so, I think this was his best performance I've seen. Just the emotions were so well portrayed. And I think it did a really good job at making a very traditional story of Hamlet into something that's more easy to understand without making it just shallow and like boring. And then a thought I had while watching it, and this was even in my Letterboxd review, but it was just that words, they don't mean anything unless you put humanity into them. And I think that really showed it, because like a lot of people, when, you know, teaching Shakespeare or like just reading it, like a lot of people don't watch Shakespeare's stuff, and that is what it was made to do. Like it was made to be watched. So I think I'm just like really happy that this portrayed it in a way that was easy to understand for other people, but also not dumbing it down.
Yeah, overall, I think that Hamlet definitely has a big shot at winning the Oscars, and I feel like it deserves to. Like, casting, cinematography, the whole movie itself, the story, the emotion, everything was so great about it, and I feel like it definitely has that chance to win, and I feel like it should deserve to win. We got so many great movies for this year's Oscar nominees, but I feel like Hamlet is like definitely one of the ones that should win.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely what I'd like to see for the future of cinema, in the sense that it's very broad in its audience. It touches those like indie aspects, but also those like more mainstream aspects, and I think it just really brings everything together.
Okay, the final movie we're going to be looking at is Frankenstein. This film is about a brilliant but egotistical scientist who brings a monstrous creature to life in a daring experiment that ultimately leads to the undoing of both the creator and his tragic creation. And this is the summary adapted from IMDb.
Okay, I'm gonna start us off by saying that Frankenstein, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And there are a lot of opinions out there about how good it was, maybe how lacking the story was. But on a more, because what I usually look for in movies, I love a good story, but what I always look for is like the cinematography. And that, for me, for Frankenstein, that hit the mark. Frankenstein hit the mark for cinematography, character design. It really did that for me. But I did think that the plot, I don't know, was lacking. It took away from some of the original story stuff. Some of it didn't really make sense, but I know a lot of people loved it, and I can see why a lot of people loved it, but just for me, like, again, I liked it. I didn't love it.
And I'm going to preface this by saying that I stopped, like, I think maybe an hour and a half in, about, like, pretty much, I personally feel like most of the way through the Frankenstein book. Like, I feel like by the time I got an hour into this, like, almost 3-hour film, I was pretty much done with, like, the main actual book Frankenstein plotline. And I personally think, like, it is a very beautiful film. I think if this was up for a nomination for, like, cinematography, I think it has a great chance at winning. And like, it had that kind of like almost animated feel about it. Like, the characters felt so well designed, and like the costumes were amazing, and I especially loved the take on Frankenstein. I think he looked really cool, and I know that the actor who played Frankenstein, he put a lot of effort into learning like a special, I think it was like a special Japanese like dance or something to like learn how to move in that way. So I think that was really cool. But personally, like, it's an almost 3-hour long time commitment, and I felt like there wasn't enough plot. I felt like it was moving very, very slowly for what it was. Like, I think it took, like, a single scene would last, like, 30 minutes, and I just couldn't give, like, that much of a time commitment to this film.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved this movie. I think I watched this movie before I watched Hamnet, so at the time when I watched it, this was my favorite movie of the picks. I thought that the length of it was fitting. I didn't feel like it was excruciating long. I remember watching this late at night and like sitting down to start it and being like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this movie because I was really tired. But I made it through it, and I just like remember being enthralled to like with the film, and just like my eyes were glued to the screen the whole time because I thought it was really beautiful. The colors were so pretty, and I think it's worth noting that the colors in it are very different from a lot of the other movies, which are more like warm toned or very like, yeah, I guess just warm toned. So I don't know, I thought the colors were really pretty. And I thought, I mean, I haven't read Frankenstein as a book. It is something I really want to read, but I haven't gotten to it yet. So I totally hear what you're saying. It's like, it probably doesn't measure up to certain things there. But I just thought it was a really good adaptation. I've seen other adaptations of Frankenstein, and I think this is probably my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, to speak to, like, the way that they adapted the book, like, I think we're on a wave in the industry of, like, adapting like classical novels, like with the Wuthering Heights one, for example, which is a bad example because it was horrifically bad, as I've heard. But like we're on a roll of that, and I think these classical books, like there's so much expectation built up in them, and they're so like central to like literacy and like all these things that like it can be really hard to like make something new out of it or just like show it on screen. And there's so many Frankenstein adaptations that like I get that like this isn't like they had to do a lot of work to make something unique, and I do see that they, you know, I see like the ways that they tried to do that, and like I recognize that like it's a hard story to adapt for the upteenth time. So I see that as like this is in some ways an achievement for them to like make such a, you know, beautiful, unique version of the original story. Yeah.
Okay, kind of building off what Frey said, I have not watched Frankenstein, but going off his tangent about like books being adapted into movies, like I definitely agree it's such a hard thing to do. I think for me, books have like so much, like you understand the characters so much better because you're definitely like inside them in a book. So I definitely see like how it's hard to like transition that into movies, and maybe that's where Frankenstein kind of fell flat. I don't know, I didn't really watch it.
I do think that a lot of people nowadays like really expect that like adaptations of like books and stuff like that to really stick it with the movies, and I do understand that fans who have been like long-term fans of those books like really do set their expectations really high. But I feel like the creators of Frankenstein were allowed to have that creative leniency, and I feel like they executed it well. They took a twist in their own story. Yeah, it made a lot of people upset because they didn't like, I don't want to say they didn't do it correctly, but they did it in their own way that made people be like, that's weird, I don't like this. But I feel like because of that, that's kind of what made the movie like pretty good. Like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to like explain because there are good things about the plot of this movie and there are bad things about the plot of this movie, because like part of me is saying, well, I'm disappointed that they didn't go with like the original kind of Frankenstein and like just incorporate like this new like cinematography to it. But at the same time, I'm happy they didn't just kind of make a copy of the book into a movie version, and I'm happy they had their own creative leniency with it.
Yeah, and speaking of creative leniency, I really loved the casting for this movie. I thought that I don't personally love Jacob Elordi's work. Something about him just makes me very queasy. But I think with that in mind, him as the character of Frankenstein was so perfect for me as a viewer, because he has a very like unique look. And so I think putting him in that like position was really smart of the creators. And then I also thought Mia Goth was gorgeous in it, and just like a lot of the like costuming also reminded me of one of the nominees from last year, Poor Things. I think that was last year, something like that. So I just wanted to go into like, what do we think of this movie in terms of like the future of cinema?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that like, I'm sure by this point pretty much everybody knows this, but movies are getting genuinely so long.
Yeah,
like
all of these are
I'll
long.
go in at like 10 p.m. to a movie. I won't get out till 1 a.m. Like at this point, I know that if I go to a movie theater, I'm not leaving until like, you know, late at night. And I think that's like, it's a lot to expect from people. Like you need to like also like be conscious that like we can't be having these movies, like if you have an amazing story to tell, that's amazing. That's what sequels are for. That's what multi-part trilogies are for. You can have these amazing stories and like connect with these audiences, but you don't need to do it in a single movie that's 3 hours long. You can do that in, you know, 2 movies, 3 movies, however long you need to tell that full story. And I think like a lot of these movies could benefit from that. I think like sequels are in a lot of ways a good thing. I think like there's bad handlings of them, but I think that they are like, I think we're I don't know. Yeah.
I think that is a good point. I do think that movies are definitely getting so long. I think honestly all of the nominees this year were 2 hours. And 2 hours or more. And I think that your bringing up of sequels is really important. Which I do think sequels are a really useful tool, but I do think there are a few movies that just sequels don't fit them, and I think Frankenstein is one of those. I think a sequel would have not made sense for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get that, like, sequels don't work for everything, but I think it's, like, at the same time, a lot of, like, I don't know. It's like they're getting like too big for like what, like if you're telling that like very long story with so many elements, I think you can do it in a more reasonable time limit. Like 2 hours, fine. That's a fine time limit. But like these stories get like so stretched out, and not like in every movie, but a lot of them, it's like this plot that would have been maybe an hour long or an hour and a half, like a regular film time lot, is getting stretched to fill this longer time limit, because I feel like in some ways having a longer film has kind of been equated to like a more complex film, and I think that's not necessarily true, but I think that that's making, like, it's influencing people to be like, okay, I should make my film longer because it makes it seem more important or more complex, and that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I want to add on to that, and like how you were talking about how like sequels are needed and they should be shortened down. I do think that if you are going to have a 3-hour-long movie, you can do it. I don't think there should be as many as there are now, but I feel like if you are able to make a 3-hour movie, you should at least make it so like the people and the viewers will be engaged the entire 3 hours. Like the moment, like I think that's why Frankenstein kind of started falling off, because the plot was lacking, which made you walk out because you just started getting bored. And that's kind of what happened with Train Dreams. Train Dreams wasn't that long, but it was all about the plot not making people engage. Where Marty Supreme was in 2 hours and 2.5 hours about, and the plot was always having something without being too much and without being too little. So the viewer was always engaged, which made me and like probably other people want to stay in that movie. So I feel like too many movies nowadays are making their movies too long without good enough like things to make those movies worth watching, and you should just start focusing on the actual plot rather than the actual length of the movie.
Yeah, so main takeaways of movies lately: too long, and also they are a lot of adaptations
and like
a lot
aesthetics over like
Plot.
quality writing.
yeah, so that's about it.
It's been another podcast from your student reporters here at The Roar. We hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more podcasts like this one.